All right, well, welcome back, everyone. Today, we're taking the 30,000-foot view of the Salesforce roadmap for state and local government. You might have heard a lot of noise right now about agentic capabilities and AI, Agent Force, but for most of our clients, the priority is still pretty simple. How do I do more with less? And how do I help my team to be able to work out in the field with constituents? So agencies are really realizing that modernization isn't just about, adding more technology or portals. It's really about building connected experiences where the backbone for operational efficiencies within these agencies relies on systems like Salesforce. And Salesforce, on the other hand, is really pushing hard on consolidating some of their applications or licensing through bundles. And that's what we hear Salesforce talking about a lot. And they also are shifting more towards consumption-based models with the rollout of Agentforce and AI. So Kenny and Cal, as you look at where Salesforce is going in 2026, what do you see as being the biggest shift for any sort of state and local agencies that isn't just about AI hype?
Yeah, I think it's the move from silos to ecosystems. For years, like an agency would buy Service Cloud for their call center and then maybe Tableau a couple of years later for like reporting. But they were islands. So now Salesforce is kind of saying, here's the whole toolkit. You have Data Cloud, Tableau, Marketing Cloud, just all in one kind of boilerplate foundation. The pro is that you finally have a unified view of the constituent, and increasingly that data doesn't have to live inside a traditional CRM like screen anymore. Salesforce is moving towards this kind of headless experience where the CRM becomes the data and workflow engine powering portals, mobile apps, global systems, Slack, or even agency websites without forcing every user into the same exact interface. The con is that it forces a much higher level of architectural maturity from day one. You can't just turn it on anymore. You have to design the data flow before you even really buy the licenses.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the big shift we're seeing with how the interface works, right? Where we're moving away from those standard CRM tabs and into where people actually work. So whether it's GovSlack for the office or Field Service mobile app for the inspectors, the technology is starting to feel invisible. People aren't just completing tasks and logging calls. It's about completing the overall mission. So that's where we get that like headless CRM term, and it's becoming really important for government because the employee or constituent, as Kenny said, might never directly see Salesforce. It's just this platform that's orchestrating the data, the identity, the workflows, and the automations behind the scenes.
So let's talk a little bit more about Slack and Slackbot. There's been a lot of conversation about using it as the front door for agencies, and some people are also talking about using something like Slackbot to interact with constituents and helping them work with agencies. But there's definitely some skepticism in terms of scaling that experience. So, what's our take on using something like Slackbot or Slack with constituents?
Yeah, I mean, for an external constituent, a Slack-based agent is like really like a lot of not a lot of bang for your buck. It's a high cost way to solve a low value problem. I mean, you don't really need a chatting agent to tell someone their park pass is like invalid. For internal operations though, that's where it's really a game changer. Imagine an inspector at like a fish hatchery or a bridge site. They shouldn't have to navigate a complex Salesforce UI on a tablet just while they're getting rained on. They should be able to chat with their data, right? I'm at Bridge A. The corrosion is level 3, level 4. Take a photo. The system handles the record creation, triggers the work order, and notifies the supervisor. All within Slack. And that's a really scalable use of that platform.
Yeah, we've heard of something called the administrative tax, and it's a killer, right? So when an officer is spending 2 hours of their day just typing in notes to a system, that's 2 hours they aren't out there in the field doing their job, right? So using Slack as an agent-driven interface means that officers like this can just talk, and the system is listening. So it turns that CRM from just a reporting chore to more of a digital assistant.
All right, well, let's talk about the investment and cost side of Salesforce and some of these license bundles. We're hearing more and more about the Agentforce One Enterprise Bundle or A1E, which also brings in other tools like Marketing Cloud and Tableau. So for some of these agencies and their procurement officers, this looks like a really good deal on paper, but is there a hidden cost from your perspective?
Yeah, it's a win if you have a data strategy. I mean, if you buy the bundle, but your data is still messy and fragmented, you're really just paying for like more more of the same problem, just with you're spending more money on it, basically. But imagine you use Tableau to identify like a 3 month backlog in licensing for maybe a specific county. You can now use Marketing Cloud to automatically text like all 500 constituents an update and a link to a self-service portal. That's a way to solve a major political headache, before it even hits the governor's desk.
Yeah, and when you're talking about cost, I think the real conversation right now is shifting to consumption-based pricing. Salesforce is moving towards using credits, where you pay for the data you process and the agent actions you're taking. So for a government agency with a fixed, let's say, biennial budget, pay as you go can be really intimidating to throw around lightly.
You don't want a viral news story to drive 50,000 people to your bot and blow your entire year's budget in like 2 days. Part of our role at Vectr is building what I call like a budget buffer. So it's architecting the system with guardrails so you get the innovation of the credits without the risk of a runaway bill. We help monitor the burn rate just like you monitor your normal utility bill.
All right, well, let's shift gears a little bit. I know here at Vector, one of the Salesforce applications that keeps coming up is around field service. And we're seeing that field service is offering a really high ROI in the state and local space. Why do you guys think that that is becoming more relevant within state and local agencies?
Yeah, because in a lot of ways, that's where the rubber hits the road. That is the last mile of where government happens. So when we can integrate GIS maps directly into Salesforce field service apps, we're saving thousands of hours in travel time and redundant data entry. So now we're seeing agencies use natural findings, where you can have an inspector take a photo of a violation or something in the real world and use the system along with AI to score the application or flag it for immediate follow-up.
Yeah, that's the right way to use AI. It fits in rather than being just forced down someone's throat. We aren't replacing the inspector. We're using a scoring agent to triage the thousands of applications so the human experts can focus on really that 10% that is actually complex or high risk. Uh, Again, there's a con. The con is when agencies try to automate the final rejection. In SLED, you have to be able to explain the why behind a decision, right? You can't just say the AI rejected your license. That's not good enough. You need the architecture to really show the deterministic logic, like why it happened. That's the line we help our clients walk.
All right, so to wrap this up, it sounds like the 2026 roadmap is about consolidation and intelligence. And we know that Salesforce is giving us a more powerful toolkit, but it also requires more intentional design and architecture. So, Kenny, why don't you and Cal wrap us up with some of your closing thoughts?
Yeah, so the big one is don't buy the A1E bundle because it's just shiny and new. Buy it because you're ready to actually connect your service, your marketing, and analytics all under a single roof.
Yeah, and on my side, it's don't wait for perfection. Don't wait for perfect AI to get started with something like field service or data foundation work that can deliver value today. Don't wait. The agents will only be as good as the foundation you build for them, so don't delay.
All right. So there you heard it, folks. The takeaway. The roadmap is bright for SLED, but it's no longer a set it and forget it platform. We're really talking about an ecosystem and platform that requires constant architectural tuning, especially as agencies move towards more of an API first and headless architecture. And that's where Salesforce becomes less of a destination and more of an operational backbone. Kenny and Cal, always a pleasure. To our listeners, build the foundation and the innovation will take care of itself. See you next time.